Dear participants, welcome to our policy dialogue. Firstly, I want to inform you that this policy dialogue will be recorded, and we will post our recording on our e-learning platform. Later, I will share the short bio of the speakers and also the link of e-learning platform in our chat box, so you may go through over there. So now I would like to give the floor to Dr. Anis Chowdhury. Yes, Dr. Anis, please.
Good afternoon to everyone. Thank you for joining this webinar on the occasion of the release of the second issue of volume 30 of the Asia Pacific Sustainable Development Journal published by ESCAP. This specific issue is a joint effort of CAREC Institute and ESCAP. So there is a special section in this journal which contains thematic papers on the regional cooperation for sustainable development. And these papers originated from CAREC Institute's research program. Obviously, they have gone through a very rigorous reviewing process, multiple revisions to ensure their academic standard and rigor. So I'm really grateful to the CAREC Institute, and it has been guest edited by Dr. Ghulam Samad of CAREC Institute and was coordinated the entire process by Emma Tong. And so I'm also grateful to both of them. With that opening remark, I would like now to have these our opening remarks to begin with from the ESCAP Executive Secretary, Under Secretary General of the United Nations, and Editor-in-Chief of the journal, Dr. Armida Salcia Alisjabana. Unfortunately, she is traveling today on an urgent matter. As you know, in the UN, things happen, everything is urgent. And so there'll be a video message from her to this session, and that will be followed by opening remark from Dr. Huang Jinjing, Deputy Director of CAREC Institute. Now there will be video presentation message from Dr. Armida.
Dear colleagues, it is my pleasure to deliver remarks at this regional policy dialogue to launch the second issue of the Asia Pacific Sustainable Development Journal. Notably, this issue features a special theme section on regional sustainable development cooperation in Central Asian countries, which was a joint effort with the CAREC Institute. Within the pages of this issue, our esteemed researchers have delved into various aspects of regional cooperation, including topics such as low-carbon energy development, trade dynamics, regional value chain, transportation network, and digital connectivity across Central Asian nations. What sets these research papers apart is their potential to offer specific policy recommendations tailored to their respective domains. We firmly believe that these recommendations will prove invaluable to policymakers as they work towards enhancing regional sustainability. The journal is uniquely designed as a bridge between academic researchers and policymakers. As a testament to this, we have included a special section, the Policymakers Corner. It offers insights into China's successful policy experiences with poverty reduction, providing practical insights for our region. Moreover, as part of our commitment to supporting young researchers, this issue features an article by two early career researchers who analyzed the determinants of trade efficiency in CAREC countries aiming to enrich our understanding of the region's economic landscape. In the spirit of collaboration, this issue also includes a survey article by the ESCAP Secretariat. This piece explores the challenges and opportunities related to transport, energy and information and communication technology or ICT connectivity in 9 landlocked developing countries of North and Central Asia. It underscores the transformative power of regional collaborative efforts capable of offsetting structural weaknesses within individual nations. Such collaboration is vital in promoting decarbonization, enhancing resilience, and ultimately facilitating the attainment of the SDGs. This issue is a testament to the successful partnership that we have nurtured with the CAREC Institute, and we pledge to continue seeking collaboration with regional and global think tanks. Our aim is to consistently deliver policy-relevant, well-researched papers that drive positive change. I would like to extend my heartfelt gratitude to all of you for joining us today. I also would like to express my deep appreciation for the authors, guest editor, editorial board, dedicated support staff team, the meticulous copy editors, and design team. Your collective efforts have been instrumental in bringing this highly policy-relevant issue of the journal to fruition. I cannot forget to thank our independent reviewers who ensured the academic rigor and quality of the papers included in this issue. Your dedication is truly commendable. In closing, I sincerely hope that the special theme papers and today's policy dialogue will prove to be of immense value to the policymakers within our region. Thank you very much.
Now I invite Dr. Jingzing Huang, Deputy Director of CAREC Institute, to make her opening remarks. May I also, at this stage, request all the participants to have their video on so that we can take a group picture at the end of the opening remarks. Dr. Huang.
Yeah, can you hear me? Yeah, okay. Dear Dr. Amida Salashia, Alice Jiang Bena, distinguished guests and participants, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. I warmly welcome you all to participate in this policy dialogue on regional sustainable development cooperation in Central Asia, organized jointly by the CAREC Institute and the United Nations Economic and Social Commission for Asia and the Pacific. Regional economic cooperation and integration in Asia and in the Pacific remains strong, especially in the CAREC region, where the CAREC Institute plays a vital role in strengthening program activities and conducting necessary research to support the UN Sustainable Development Goals. In recent years, our institute has collaborated with partners to host workshops on regional sustainable topics, such as economic zones related SDG 9, ecology and environment, and poverty reduction, providing policymakers and practitioners with valuable insights and recommendations. We are pleased to hold this policy dialogue based on papers published in the second issues of the UN ESCAPs of Asia and Pacific Sustainable Development Journal, produced in the collaboration with the CAREC Institute. We sincerely thank the authors for their contributions and UNESCAPs for its support. The themes papers focus on various aspects of regional cooperation in Central Asia, from low-carbon energy development to trade, transport, and digital connectivity, and offer specific policy recommendations. Today, we gather not only to discuss regional integration in the CAREC region and learn from the insights of the papers published in the ESCAP journal, but also to use this dialogue as a platform for sharing ideas and recommendations on how to deepen regional cooperation and integration, with a focus on the CAREC region. The agenda for today's event is truly exciting. Just like the moderator introduced, we have divided the discussion into the following sections. The first is Dr. Anis Choudhary, Managers Editor of the Asian Pacific Sustainable Development Journal, will deliver a brief introduction of the journal and the current issues. The second is Dr. Hans, our Chief Economist, will moderate the section to introduce the papers that we have in the journal. Next is Dr. Roman, Senior Economist from the ADB, and Dr. Gulnaz Alibekova from Institute of Economics of Kazakhstan will be our panelist to discuss the regional sustainable development from their view. Last but not least, we will have a question and answer section for participants. So we warmly welcome all participants to contribute their ideas, thoughts, and views during this dialogue. Let's work together to pave the way for a more connected and prosperous future in our region. Thank you for joining us today. Back to you, moderator.
Thank you, Dr. Huang. And we'll have a group photo now. And please keep the video on, all for you. And Rose will take a snapshot.
Okay, so we will take 2 times. Now is the first time. 1, 2, 3. Okay. And the second time. 1, 2, 3. Okay, thank you.
Thanks. You can switch on and off whatever the video. I think the bandwidth is good enough for the video. But if you find the internet is causing problem, then switch off your video. Okay, now the next on the agenda item is introducing the journal about the, it's still me. So I'll share the screen now. We'll make a short presentation about the journal. So I'm sharing the screen, and now hopefully it will work. Yes, share. Okay. Can you see the slides? Okay, so it's a very short slide presentation. This is the cover page of the journal.
I'm sorry, Dr. Anis. Sorry for interrupting you. We cannot see.
You cannot see?
Yes.
On my screen is showing that I'm sharing the screen.
Yes, now it's okay.
Now it's okay.
Yeah. So you can see the cover page of the current issue, and I'll quickly run through this about this journal. This journal actually is not a new journal, although this current title started from 2018. This journal has a history, a very long history. ESCAP has been publishing journal from 1948. Almost immediately after the formation of Economic Commission for Asia and the Far East. That was the original name of the organization. And then organization name has changed into Economic and Social Commission for Asia and the Pacific. So now it is the current name of the organization, in short, ESCAP. So as you know, ESCAP publishes an annual survey of economic and social survey of Asia and the Pacific. Part of it is an update, and that update used to be published in the name with the title Economic Bulletin for Asia and the Far East, and then it became Economic Bulletin for Asia and the Pacific. In 1995, that bulletin was converted into a regular journal with the title Asia Pacific Development Journal. So the journal with the title Asia Pacific Development Journal started in 1995. Previously, it was part of the Economic Survey. Now it is an independent journal, separate from the survey, just like any other academic journal. In 2018, the title changed to Sustainable Development Journal as UN adopted in 2015 after the conference on development, sustainable development. So the concept of development expanded from in the 60s or in the early 50s. The concept of development was merely growth, and in the 60s it became growth plus change. So, and it was UN that took the lead in changing or expanding, widening the concept of development. And then from the 80s, the concept started changing, and finally what we have following the Earth Summit in 1992, Rio Summit, and then Rio Plus 20, and then so on. Now we have sustainable development. As you know, in 2015, we adopted Agenda 2030 for Sustainable Development Goals, SDGs in short. So in line with that, the title of the journal changed to the Asia Pacific Sustainable Development Journal. The aim and objective of the journal is to stimulate and enrich research on policy challenges in Sustainable Development Goals, and provide a platform for policymakers to share their experiences and offer capacity development opportunities to early career researchers. UN has got a mandate to provide capacity development support to the countries in special circumstances or special situations, as well as the academic researchers and policymakers in those countries. So then we have, because of that, the journal has a special focus on countries in a special situation, meaning least developed countries, LDCs, landlocked developing countries, LLDCs, small island development states, which is SEEDs, and economies in transition. So the Central Asian countries fits into the category of landlockedness as well as countries in transition. So we have a special focus on these countries. So we encourage the researchers from these countries to submit their papers, research papers, with policy implications for sustainable development. Now, nowadays, people worry about the quality of the journals. Of course, the journal is very much aware of that, and has got very rigorous system in terms of ensuring is the quality of publication. It has the very experienced editorial and advisory board, and in a very active board. We regularly meet internally. We have regular monthly meeting to review our progress, review our submissions, and we have also external editors from reputable organizations. They just don't lend their names. They also participate very actively. And similarly, we have got a very active advisory board. And we have a double refereeing system, the blind refereeing system, with just like any other good journals. The journal is a B category journal by Australian Business Dean's Council, and it is also indexed with various indexing authorities. And one of them is a very common one, is called Research Papers in Economics, REPAC. So you may all may be aware of that already. And then it is also indexed with EconLit, which is owned by Allied Sciences Association, Social Science Association of, or in short, American Economic Association, which publishes the Journal of Economic Literature. So there's some key statistics. Impact factor are at the moment, the impact factor is 1.435. You can see the impact factor of Asia Pacific Development Journal, the journal, the title before this one was nearly 3, which is a very high impact factor for a social science journal. But once we change the title, everything has to start again. This is the way it is. We cannot argue about that, but we are catching up. You can see it is improving. And I have here a few comparative statistics. This is Asia Pacific Economic Literature, published by Australian National University, very highly respected journal. Its impact factor is 1.517, which is, so ours is not very different, is slightly below that. And then I have the 2 journals from Asian Development Bank. One is Asian Development Review, which impact factor is about 2. And if you compare with the predecessor of APSD, which is APDJ, it was nearly 3. So one full one rank above the Asian Development Review. So I'm not saying Asian Development Review is inferior journal, just to say that APSD is at par with the journals in the same area of publication. So the people should not feel that if publishing in this journal will not bring reputation or will not get your academic whatever ranking you would like, or academic brownie points you would like. And you can see the views. There is quite a large view, page views, 2,783 as of November 7th, the latest, and 530 downloads of files. So since the beginning of when we started listing this journal in June 2019. So these are all good statistics. And so I strongly encourage you, those who are especially in Central Asian countries, to consider APSD for their research publication. Of course, submission of your research your paper does not necessarily guarantee its publication. It has to go through your review process. But before you submit your paper, please consult the website where we have the instructions and guidelines for the authors, and look at the aims and objectives. So your paper, to begin with, has to comply with aims and objectives, and also it has to follow certain house style and certain, like for example, word limit, certain format style, citation style, etc. So please look at that, understand those, and if you have any confusion, you can always write to me for clarification. We will provide clarification and so on. Just don't write a paper and then send it to us without thinking whether it is suitable for this journal or not. This is very important for any publication. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Ennis. So now let's give the floor to Dr. Hans. Dr. Hans is the chief economist from CAREC Institute.
Thank you, Rose. Hello, everyone, again. Thank you for the participation. A special thank to you and ESCAP and Dr. Anis personally for running this very important, informative, and good journal. And I encourage again everyone, read it and possibly also contribute. Coming back to our countries, yes, we have not only countries in transition, we have landlocked countries and even one double landlocked country. So please, especially also from the transition and landlocked countries, please try to contribute. A warm regard from Dr. Ghulam Samad, who actually should be here on my place and doing this moderation. He worked together with Dr. Anis, and thank you again, Dr. Anis, for the cooperation and for helping us to doing this. So Dr. Ghulam Samad was actually from our side the main organizer of these special issues, but as mentioned already today, there are urgent issues. So, and he's currently on travel to promote the middle corridor. He's in Azerbaijan, so regards and apologies that he could not be in my role here. Let me also take the liberty as a moderator here to invite Emma Tong to say a few words to the authors. Then I will also say a few, not very many, because we have not much time, but I would like to, Emma was coordinating from our side with the authors. So Emma, if you are here, please, could you say a few words?
Thank you, Dr. Hans. Good afternoon, distinguished guests and dear colleagues. Thanks again for Dr. Hans to giving me this opportunity to be here, and it is my pleasure to meet everybody here. Also, I want to say it's my honor to engage in such a great project jointly by UN ESCAP and CI. I believe within this wonderful project, it definitely will help CAREC regional sustainable development. And as Dr. Hans just mentioned, under the leadership by Dr. Samad and Dr. Hans, I have a great chance to work with such great authors, as well as working with Dr. Anis. I would like to thank all authors for always being active and positive in their work. And we have communicated a lot via emails actually from last year until now. And I know that also all the authors, they put a lot of efforts in their papers. And also working with Dr. Anis remind me to be critical thinking and patient when doing research. So to see such a great knowledge product from starting point to be accomplished, I'm really thankful that I could be part of it. I wish today's event that could be successful. Thank you, Dr. Hans.
Thank you, Emma. Congratulations to the authors for the very important, informative, and interesting contributions, papers to the journal. I was told to hold a very strict regime here. This applies also to myself. So we got 5 minutes, everyone. So I will not run you to the biographies. So Rose are putting them up in chat, so everyone can look at the biographies of all the participants here. So in order to save time, again, please have a look there. I will just mention a few papers. I mean, all the papers, so 4 or 5 papers, and then give the word to the authors, and request you very much to keep the 5-minute regime. And as mentioned, I was told to be strict, so I will remind you and interrupt you after 5 minutes speech by everyone. So let me mention the paper with the title "Comparing Regional Integration for Sustainable Development in Asian and the CAREC Economies," written by Mr. Philandra Kumar Sudan, who works actually quite a lot with the CAREC Institute, and he will speak especially about regulatory cooperation in digital trade information, communication technologies, and e-commerce platform. Then we have a paper, Regional Cooperation in Promoting Low Carbon Energy Development, written by Mrs. Bulgar Murun Tsevegayev, and she writes especially about alternative energy sources, hydro, solar, and wind. Then we have a paper called Assessing Participation of Central Asia and South Caucasus countries in global and regional value chain, written by Yaroslava Babich and Altera. And this paper is mainly about as the title says, about integration in regional and global value chain, also production processes, creating the linkages between the different production structures. And then we have a paper explaining trade policy effects for Central Asia Regional Economic Cooperation countries, by Amjad Masood and Junaid Ahmed, speaking especially about pan-CAREC trade agreement, a potential one. So all very interesting topics. And now I will give the word in the order of our agenda to the authors. So first, we will have a statement by Dr. Syed Muhammad Hassan. Please, Dr. Syed, go ahead. Let's learn from you.
Thank you, Dr. Hans. Just want to make sure I'm audible here.
Yes, we hear you well and see you well.
Okay, great. Just a second, let me share my slides. Okay, so I would begin by offering sincere thanks to CAREC Institute, and particularly Dr. Hans for the support he provided during this exciting research. Would also like to thank ESCAP and the Dr. Anis Chaudhary for his continuous support and patience with us. So the title of my presentation is similar to the paper's title, and this is Mapping Economic Clusters Using Satellite Imagery to Assess the Impact of Transport Corridors in the CAREC countries. And the main motivation for the project was to study the impact or the transformation brought in by the investments made in the transport infrastructure. So due to resource and time constraints, we limited our study to 3 CAREC countries or regions, which is Pakistan, Tajikistan, and the Xinjiang region in China. And as we were working on a cross-country study, so in order to overcome the barriers or constraints in data availability, we utilized satellite imagery for the analysis over here. So moving on, I'll give you a quick overview, and this is overview and motivation behind the project. Some of this already I mentioned in my introductory remarks. And we want to see here basically in this study is if low transport costs result in a cumulative causation process leading to emergence of economic clusters. Thereby, we want to see whether investments in transport infrastructure lead to economic development of that region as well, and what it depends on ultimately. We expect that findings of this study can be used in design of policy interventions in future, and as well as deciding about which type of investments need to be made in future. So just for the background purposes, in case of any transport corridor, the development passes through 5 phases or stages. It begins with provision of improved transport, that comes in trade facilitation, logistics support, and then we see as a result of all of these urban growth and economic development. So some of these stages might have overlapping boundaries, but there is consensus in literature that the transformation passes through these phases in the sequence given over here. So in this paper, through satellite imagery, we are focusing on the last 2 parts, like whether we see urban growth in influence regions of these transport network or roads. And here we, and also we infer about the economic development taking place over here. So the typical indicators used to assess the performance of a corridor are based on transport statistics such as cargo volumes, or indicators mentioning ease of doing businesses or highway traffic speeds. And these usually are based on port-to-port operations, and relying on these indicators for the purpose of assessing sustainable regional growth would be ambiguous in some cases. So we go for a slightly non-conventional approach in this study. And as I mentioned earlier, we utilize satellite imagery. And this is for the following 3 purposes. So one is to observe change in population density within these influence regions of the corridors, see growth of urban settlements and new ones, or whether we see emergence of new urban areas or growth in the existing ones. And then also observe through satellite imagery changes over a period of time in land use and investments in regions nearby these transport corridors. And then from these changes, we derive conclusions about economic activity change. So we believe that for the CAREC transport corridor, this is the first study that has been done using this satellite imagery method. So just for the interest of audience here, I'm sharing a couple of slides showing images based on this satellite imagery. And over here, we see change in population density within the influence region of the corridor between 2000 and the year 2018. And these colors, they have they indicate changes in the population density over this period of time. Moving forward, this is the night lights image, and again we see a considerable increase in the intensity of the night lights over a 7-year period between 2012 and 2019, and these differences in years choice is based on the availability of satellite imagery data. So using these satellite imagery data, we find out that it is important, like these results, first of all, this provides us an inexpensive and easily replicable method of observing economic growth or changes in urbanization at local level. And besides that, we find out that results in general are heterogeneous across regions. So which tells us that to reap true benefits of such interventions like investments in transport infrastructure, there is a greater need to focus on linking markets, ideas, and people. And that would be something very important in terms of realizing the true potential of these transport corridors. That is all from my side. Thank you.
Thanks a lot. I recently was in a logistics forum for youth, and students told logistics is to deliver from A to B, they were taught. So you enriched this view a lot. Many thanks. And I hope we discuss more later on. But now let's move to the next speaker. So I invite Dr. Falendra Kumar to deliver his intervention. Thanks a lot. Dr. Falendra Kumar.
Good afternoon to all of you. Thanks are due to CAREC Institute, Dr. Hans and Dr. Anish Chaudhary for all the support and the guidance. I am sharing the slide here. Okay, it is visible.
Thanks. Yes, it's
we can
visible
see.
in a Word format, right?
Yes, the slide is visible.
Not as a slide, but yes, we see the slide. But it's not a slideshow. It's just, but it's readable.
Okay.
Yes. Now we saw your abstract. Okay.
Okay. The title of my presentation is Comparing Regional Integration for Sustainable Development in ASEAN and CAREC Economies, Lessons for CAREC Region. The first is the abstract of the paper. This paper developed a framework of digital and sustainable regional integration for the ASEAN and the CAREC regions, with the objective to chart progress in achieving higher regional integration and offer future policy options. Trade and investment integration, including regional value chain integration, can be achieved through digital transformation of trade and investment in the CAREC region. Greater facilitation of mobility for people, substantial regulatory cooperation in digital trade, trade in information and communication technology goods, and development of e-commerce platforms are essentials for sustainable development in the region. Introduction. Over the period, ASEAN has emerged as a successful economic cooperation and integration initiative and can be a benchmark for the CAREC program. The objective of this study is to construct a simple index of regional integration using different dimensions, including digital and sustainable development dimensions and indicators, and to quantify progress in ASEAN and the CAREC member countries in realizing the goal to offer future policy options for achieving higher regional integration. The study covers the period from 2010 to 2020. Now the recommendations to the members countries. In Kazakhstan, there is need to boost investment to achieve greater regional integration in the CAREC region and diversify the economy by developing a highly competitive manufacturing sector. For greater regional integration, the economy's strategic locational gains in terms of cross-border trade, transport and economic corridors, and various dimensions of conventional and sustainable regional integration should be leveraged. Digital economic integration should be further bolstered to improve the performance of conventional and sustainable indicators of the dimensions of regional integration. Rural-urban infrastructure linkages should be strengthened to increase the flow of goods, movements of people, and knowledge resources and reduce locational and gender inequalities. In case of Kyrgyzstan, this study recommends that there is immense future potential for regional value chain integration and the development of digital economy through increased investment in compatible infrastructure and greater integration into regional blocks. Investment in the economy of Kyrgyzstan should be strengthened and diversified away from mining to productive sectors, infrastructure and connectivity to improve its regional integration. Regarding the energy sector, the potential of Kyrgyzstan's abundant hydro resources should be tapped and energy trade can be promoted with energy scarce economies of the CAREC region. Agro-processing industries should be developed to take advantage of the competitive advantage of Kyrgyzstan in intra-regional trade. For Mongolia, this study suggests that Mongolia's potential associated with refineries is untapped, which should be explored rigorously to reduce dependence on petroleum imports. Regional value chains should be diversified with greater participation from CAREC economies, specifically in the highly competitive livestock products. The tourism potential should be further explored to take advantage of competitive gains in the services sector, which can increase the country's integration with the CAREC economy. The potential of renewable energy should be exploited to achieve self-sufficiency in energy and boost intra-regional energy trade through energy reforms, including greater participation of the private sector in infrastructure investment. Financial sector reforms are needed to improve the performance of banking industry, which can contribute substantially towards financial integration. For Pakistan, the trade and investment integration is the lowest in the region, which reflects high trade linkages with economies outside the region. Pakistan needs substantial investment in infrastructure and connectivity to diversify its exports and spur cross-border trade with regional economies, including among them China and India, in addition to meeting energy requirements from other CAREC economies. Expansion of the CAREC corridors and improvement in ease of doing business and its logistic performance would reduce transaction cost and improve cross-border trade by enhancing the country's trade competitiveness and increasing trade facilitation measures. Pakistan also requires substantial investment in digital infrastructure and policy support. For Tajikistan, it has great potential to develop hydro energy, which would present significant prospects for energy trade with other CAREC economies and support the achievement of energy security. To develop the energy sector, energy reforms are required to promote greater private investment to increase energy use efficiency, upgrade technical capacities, promote renewable energy, modernize infrastructure, and construct new plants. Tajikistan can achieve regional integration through robust policy interventions for private participation in technical and vocational education, job creation, and development of small and medium enterprises to boost exports. So this is all from my side. Thank you.
Many thanks. Now I call Dr. David Keshe-Lava. Can you please make your intervention? And again, very interesting intervention, Dr. Falendra, and I guess later we can discuss a little bit more. Now we need to speed to get everyone. Dr. David.
Thank you. I will just share my screen.
Yes.
Okay. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for that great opportunity. Thank you to CAREC Institute as well for support and the journal as well for great comments and giving us opportunity to improve our paper as much as possible. So I will try to be quick and have more emphasis on results rather than the methodology. But as for the motivation, so our study is about value chain participation in the global level and in the regional level. And we know that the economic relationship between countries is more sophisticated now rather than years ago. So it's not just trading between borders, but it's participation in the value chains. And there are a lot of academic papers studying value chain participation of developing countries and identifying challenges that these countries can have to be integrated in the global and regional value chains, starting from infrastructure problems with weak institutions, finished to human capital and physical capital problems. But it's also identified as a great opportunity for small open economies to be integrated in the production process. And despite not having comparative advantage in production, most of the goods, having comparative advantage to be part of the production process. So just focused on the particular moment of the production. There was a gap in literature about assessing value chain participation for CAREC region and particularly South Caucasus countries like Georgia and Azerbaijan. And our aim was based on the well-known methodology of United Nations Conference on Cooperation on Trade and Development to estimate regional and global value chain participation of CAREC countries. And they answered the main question: if the countries are integrated in the regional value chains, in which sectors they have value chain cooperation. And we had special emphasis on South Caucasus countries and especially Georgia, and our paper ends with a case study of Georgia after identification of specific sectors. It's studied how this value chain participation can be improved within these sectors. So we used, as I have already mentioned, we used the input-output tables from multi-regional input-output tables from EURA, which includes close to 5,000 industries and close to 190 countries. We transformed these input-output tables and made value added in export and calculated global value chain and regional value chain participation, which includes forward value chain participation and backward value chain participation. So what we discovered is that in terms of global value chain participation, some of the CAREC countries have very low participation rate, but a considerable thing is that in terms of regional value chain participation, most of the countries have not very tight linkages with the region. There were two exceptions, like Mongolia and Kyrgyzstan, having a little bit higher regional value chain participation scores, but all the other countries have the participation that is close to zero. So they have value chain participation with the countries outside region, but very limited cooperation within the region. Then we looked at the developments of the value chain participation over time and how different shocks, global and regional shocks, could impact on this score. And we found out that so we had two interesting events actually analyzed in the paper. The first was global financial crisis that impacted everybody. So this is kind of a global shock, and we have more regional crisis. So growth slowdown and the oil crisis in after 2014, and we also observed how this affected the value chain participation of the region. And what we found is that on average the global value chain, after 2006 till 2012, regional value chain participation increased and global value chain participation little bit decreased on average for CAREC countries, which is the story behind it is that during the crisis, the current CAREC countries tried to find out partners within the region, and the regional value chain participation increased. On the contrary, if we look at the second crisis, the second important shock, we found out that regional value chain participation declined after this oil shock in the region, while there was also decline in terms of global value chain participation. Then we particularly focused on South Caucasus countries, explored, deep dived into Georgia's value chain participation by countries, and I would say that the most of the results and recommendations are pretty much related to Georgia rather than the other CAREC countries, Georgia and South Caucasus countries, Georgia and Armenia. So first of all, what we discovered is that Georgia has very high value chain participation with traditional neighboring countries like Russia, for example, and this value chain participation is quite resilient. So despite the turbulence between economic and political relationship between Georgia and Russia, this share of the value in the value chains, Russia's share in the value chain is quite resilient and not changing, pretty persistent even during the conflict and sanctions. Also, value chain participation does not solely depend on geographic proximity and the size of the country, despite the fact, for example, Turkey being very close to Georgia, and we have like a cooperation in trade. Turkey is not the one of the top partners of Georgia in terms of value chain participation. Then we deep dived into industries, and at the end of the day, we identified two main industries where Georgia can improve the value chain participation in the region. And one of them was textile and apparel industry, and it was well studied, thoroughly studied in the paper, what situation we have in the sector and what could be how it can be, how Georgia can increase its share in terms of value chain participation in this sector. Thank you so much again for that opportunity. Thank you.
Great, thanks for these insights. Also, these things I hope and guess we will discuss more in deep. May I now invite Dr. Amjad Masood for his intervention. We cannot hear you. Are you muted? Or at least I could not hear you. That's none. Other colleagues, Rose, can you hear Dr. Amjad?
No, I cannot hear Dr. Amjad.
No. Yes, maybe.
Maybe Dr. Amjad, you can close the meeting and join us again.
Yes.
Okay,
Right.
I just
Right now
tried.
it's
Now we hear
right now
you.
it's fine.
It's fine?
Yeah.
Yeah, now it's fine.
Oh, all right, thank you. So
Yes, we can see your screen.
so
Dr. Amjad, maybe your internet quality is not very good. We cannot hear you right now. No, we cannot hear.
Please switch
Hello.
off the videos. That will
Yeah, yes.
probably help.
is
Yeah,
it
right
all
now
right
it's-
now?
Yeah.
Yes, we can hear you.
Oh, all right, thank you. So this about trade policy for the CAREC countries. As we know that most of these countries are landlocked. So in this context, we try to analyze what is the role of regional trade agreements to facilitate trade between countries within the region, as well as to connect the CAREC region to the neighboring regions like the Middle East, the Mediterranean, or South Asia, or Russia, or Europe, or so. So, oops. Just okay. So in the content, I will briefly talk about the different features of regional trade and intra-block and extra-block trade flows, and then about the outcome of the regional trade agreements on the trade facilitation in the region. For any effective trade policy, it's very important to consider some very fundamental aspects of regional trade in the CAREC region. One of that is China is dominating the regional trade with more than half of the regional trade comes from China, although that is almost 1.7% of the total global exports of China because the economy is so large. On the other hand, other countries such as Mongolia and Turkmenistan, they are highly dependent on regional trade because their shares are around 80% or so. And still other countries like Pakistan and Uzbekistan, they are moderately dependent on the regional trade. So this is one aspect. And then, and here we see that 2.94% of the total regional trade of these countries is happening within the region. This is very parallel to the previous presentation by Dr. Keshlava. Another aspect of regional trade is if we look into the exports across different categories like capital goods, consumer goods, intermediate goods, and raw materials. The share of raw materials is only 12% of the total exports of the CAREC region. However, if we exclude China from the story, then a very different narrative we see that raw materials are composing almost 40% of the total trade, which is really important to know for any, effective trade policy. And here in this diagram, I try to kind of portray share of raw materials and other export categories for individual countries. And we see that for China, the share of raw materials is small, but for other countries like Mongolia, Afghanistan, and Azerbaijan, the exports are predominantly based on raw materials. And for countries like Pakistan or Uzbekistan, they have some consumer goods, mostly labor-intensive industries like textile and so on. And going further, we should also look into the export diversification. And we see that the exports of this region is mostly based on extractables like minerals and fuels, and some agriculture products, vegetables and fruit, and of course, some stone and glass and textile products and metals. But there are, I mean, fewer sectors which are involved in the exports of the CAREC region, excluding China. This slide is for all the countries excluding China. So export concentration towards fewer industries, another kind of aspect. Now, looking into the intra-block trade flows, we see one pattern that the countries which share neighbor, they are having higher trade, which is kind of logical. For instance, Uzbekistan and Kazakhstan, they have more trade connectivity. Pakistan and Afghanistan, they have higher trade connectivity, and so on. And second aspect of intra-block trade is every country is trading more with China, which is not actually showed in this diagram because it's difficult to kind of show it visually. But that is another aspect. And the reason is simple, because the Chinese economy is considerably very, very large. And with respect to extra-block trade, we see that CAREC region is very little connected to Middle East and to South Asia and to Russia. Only Kazakhstan has some exports between Russia and Kazakhstan, and pertaining to Mediterranean region and Europe, Pakistan, Kazakhstan, and Azerbaijan, they have some trade connectivity. Other countries are quite not exporting a lot to these regions. So with this background, we analyze the role of regional trade agreement using gravity trade model. I'm not going into all this econometrics stuff, but our main finding is that most of the regional trade agreements which are currently enforced by these countries are not really doing any good, except for the regional trade agreements of Kazakhstan, Pakistan, and Uzbekistan. And second thing is the role of these trade policies is particularly not up to the mark if we talk about trade of CAREC region to the external countries, to the neighboring regions. So all this effect of this region trade agreement is concentrated towards intra-block trade, and they are not supporting or facilitating extra-block trade to a kind of considerable extent. So based on all these findings, we have a few recommendations. One is we have so many, trade agreements in practice that it's very difficult for traders or for policymakers to understand like what the situation is. So instead of that, if we have a pan-CAREC trade agreement, that would be a clean and simpler arrangement, and that would help traders to identify what product and what destination they should focus on. And related to extra-block trade, of course, there's a need to sign newer trade agreements, and in that, it's very important to choose the tariff lines very carefully so that we can support the export of high value-added products, and also we can support the import of the input that goes into the high value-added products production, so that we can kind of support the production of high value-added products in the region. And lastly, of course, there's a concern about the diversification. So there should be new products, and new destinations should be kind of considered and supported by the policy to make it more diversified, because no country or region would grow economically or be resilient without a diversified portfolio. Thank you very much.
Many thanks also for this intervention, and many thanks to all the authors also for the important policy recommendations. Now let's move to the comments and the panel discussion. And as a first speaker, we have Roman Mogilevsky, and not an author here, but a well-known economist in the Central Asian and CAREC region, and also responsible for the CAREC Institute from the ADB side. So Roman, please, the word is yours.
Thank you very much, Hans. Dear colleagues, good afternoon. First, I would like to congratulate Dr. Anis as a managing editor of the journal, Dr. Ghulam Samad as guest editor of the issue, the paper authors, and all staff working on the publication of Asia Pacific Sustainable Development Journal with this excellent product. I also would like to stress that this issue is an evidence of success of one of the CAREC Institute's important programs, visiting fellow programs, as all authors seems to be fellows of CAREC Institute a few years ago. So I think that's excellent result. Now coming to the papers, with Dr. Alibekov, we agreed to split these 5 papers into 2 batches, and I will cover 3 of them, discussing one by one in the order which they are published in the journal. So first is the paper of Professor Falendra Kumar Sudan on comparing regional integration for sustainable development in ASEAN and CAREC economies. And that's a very interesting and quite challenging exercise comparing the levels of regional integration. I would like to make a kind of a note that it is not exactly fair to compare them, because ASEAN is quite established formal organization with all the institutions in place, and CAREC is so far relatively loose cooperation program. So in a way, ASEAN is the kind of bright future for CAREC if everything goes very well, and for which we all hope, I believe. So anyway, it is useful to compare, always useful to compare, and both regions are extremely diverse, and geographies are different, size is different, and everything else is different, but still it's even more interesting to look at them. The author develops a comprehensive measure of regional sustainable integration with an accent on digital aspects, but also economic and many other things. However, there are no environmental or climate change mitigation and adaptation measures for very understandable reason. And I think that's an important thing to discuss with regards to this paper, the data. Well, everybody working on data in our part of the region knows that's an issue. For that reason, not every indicator could be employed. Well, there are some meaningful indicators, but no data for them. Not all countries provide equal coverage of indicators. So all of that is was dealt with the author. I believe it was quite pragmatic and useful approach undertaken. He simplified the existing indices, basically developing his own, and processed a huge amount of data. But no, that's what is possible to do. And I invite all participants of this meeting to read the paper. I believe it is certainly was done as with all other 4 papers, plenty of empirical results. And I would like to highlight an interesting general finding, somewhat unexpected, as the author also notes that CAREC seems to be more integrated than ASEAN. Well, that's an interesting finding to think about. I also appreciate very much the sound policy recommendations provided in the paper, and which were discussed today by Professor Falendra Kumar, so I don't want to repeat. But all in all, I believe that's a useful contribution to the regional integration literature and discussion which we have now in the region. The second paper allocated to me has been written by Ms. Volgan Murun Tsevekjaf from Mongolia. She's a consultant of EDB. And she wrote on regional cooperation in promoting low carbon energy development, the CAREC region, challenges and opportunities. So in a way, she compensated for insufficient coverage in the previous paper of the low carbonization and the climate change matters. So she provided quite systematic review of energy production and energy trade in the region, greenhouse emission reduction policies, goals and actions in CAREC countries, energy efficiency policies in CAREC countries. For those who are working on those issues in CAREC, I think that's excellent source of comparative analysis with kind of very clear structure and useful material provided there. She also summarized the challenges which countries of the region face with regards to decarbonization, including underdeveloped institutions for intra-regional trade in electricity, the heavy reliance on fossil fuels, and the inefficient and aging regional electricity infrastructure, which are all kind of, yes, difficult to argue against. Basically, that's the challenges. She also noticed the opportunities for development, including falling cost for renewable energy technologies, the global investment shift to low carbon energy, and cost effectiveness of cooperation in low carbon energy development. I think that's the last opportunity should be very well kind of taken seriously, and we need to all work to progress this direction. She also provides a few policy recommendations along the lines of harmonizing legal and regulatory frameworks, including technical standards, engaging cross-border technology transfer and knowledge exchange, ensure participation of all relevant stakeholders in energy cooperation, especially private sector. I think that's a very useful point. And also employing sustainable solutions for better integration of renewable energy into the electricity grid, which is again a technical challenge of serious scale down the road, which needs to be very kind of carefully considered already now. The third paper I would like to discuss in very few words is really the paper of Professor Said Hassan, who presented just a few minutes ago. He covered the mapping economic clusters using satellite imagery to assess the impact of transport corridors in countries. So the paper operates with the concept of economic corridor. This ADB is supporting and promoting for many years. So we are happy to see this paper from that perspective. And it provides a practical approach in assessing the progress in developing such corridors in CAREC region. On the note, again, I would like to mention that very recently ADB published a guidance note on economic corridor development, from conceptual framework to practical implementation. I will put a link in the chat box when I finish speaking. So everybody interested in the economic corridor agenda and for some reason didn't see it yet, you're much welcome to check what our colleagues developed there. Moreover, that the paper refers to some works of colleagues, ADB colleagues who worked on this paper. So I would like also note sound theoretical base and innovative approach to data, exposing remote sensing imagery and special data for Xinjiang Uyghur Autonomous Region of People's Republic of China, of Pakistan and Tajikistan, which he compiled from different sources. I think that's quite an achievement. And this data allow measuring the changes in population density in different economic activities, general activities, but also changes in urbanization, road density, mining, and agriculture, among other things. Somewhat expectedly, the paper found higher levels of economic activity in the areas of transport corridor development, but not everywhere. Well, the paper considers a special case for Tajikistan, where less progress in economic activities has been registered. And the paper makes a point that it is necessary to also consider structural issues into account, take into account, which I believe is a very valid point. Let me also suggest continuing working on this topic. And the next issue to address is the efficiency of corridor development. Okay, well, of course, if you build a new road, it helps development. When the cost of this road are compensated by the benefits of economic development, that's a very interesting, non-trivial topic, and I invite the author and many other colleagues who are interested in the topic also start thinking how empirically measure that. Maybe I'll stop here. Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot, Roman. Before moving to Gulnaz, let me invite all the participants to put questions, comments into chat and Q&A. So we have not very much time left, but a little bit time left for discussion and questions. So please write, and later you can also raise your hands, of course. So Gulnaz Alibekova is also a famous researcher in the Central Asian region, and also a research facilitator running a network. Maybe you can say a word about this as well, Gulnaz. And she is from the, as mentioned, from the Economic Institute of the Ministry of Education and Science of the Republic of Kazakhstan. Gulnaz, please, the word is yours.
Thank you, Hans. Good afternoon, dear colleagues. Thank you, Hans. I'm not so famous as Roman. Anyway, thank you. Dear colleagues, let me introduce my comments on the first paper as assessing participation of Central Asia and the South Caucasus countries in global and regional value chains. The article assesses the strengths, just to mention, to remind that articles assess the strengths of integration of Central Asia and Caucasian countries into global and regional value chains using the input-output method. The choice of method is justified enough, and the topic is very relevant due to the underestimation of the economies of this region, I think. And the main point is that it's essential to build a basic framework for integration of the region countries into global and regional value chains. And it's obvious that the growth points of the region are first is providing transport infrastructure and strong transit capacity, formation of the transit transport framework, attracting private investments into diversifying production and exports, and expanding financial services supply, coordination of the water energy complex development, and the insufficient level of regional cooperation is due to the extraction type of economy in the region. And international experts state that the common internal challenge for the countries of Central Asia are the need to increase the efficiency of public administration and to develop social elevators. From my side, I also can add human resource capacity building. It's crucial for embedding into the value chains. The investment attractiveness of Central Asia states can be improved by harmonization of the regulatory framework and strengthening the investor rights protection, first of all. So I can say that the paper is very well designed. The hypotheses are thoroughly developed, and the results of the research are rather scientifically justified and applicable for the country's policies to increase the integration to the regional and global value chains. As for the next paper, explaining trade policy effects for the Central Asia regional economic cooperation countries, just to remind, the aim of the paper is to estimate the effect of regional trade agreements for intra-block and extra-block trade flows using gravity model. And it's obvious that regional trade benefits the economies due to comparative advantages, and the regional trade agreement is the optimal tool to organize this trade. The main finding I wanted to emphasize is that complementarities for Chinese, I'm citing from the paper, complementarities for Chinese imports to other CAREC members range from 13 to 36. On the contrary, the complementarity of Chinese exports to the CAREC region remains as high as 50 or above. This confirms the leading role of China in building the trade capacity in the region. However, of course, the initiative should be mutual, and the countries should make significant efforts to unpack those trade potentials and to benefit from those trade potentials. It was my pleasure to read such thoroughly designed and methodologically justified papers. Both paper findings are very specific, applicable, and important for designing trade and value chain policy in the regions. Wish all authors success in further research, and thank you very much, CAREC Institute and the journal, especially Dr. Anis, for choosing me as a panelist to comment on these papers. I had a very good chance to deepen into this research, and I will try to share those research results in my region. Thank you.
Many thanks, Gulnaz. Dr. Anis, I understand you need to leave. Maybe you want to say 3 words.
I have another, but anyway, thanks, Hans. You have managed it very well, because I was worried whether we could finish in time. But all the authors, I thank them for keeping their presentation brief. Also, the 2 very highly respected, well-known panelists. Both of them actually are related to the journal. Roman is on the advisory board, and Gulnaz is on the editorial board. As I said, this journal gives a special focus to Central Asia. So that's why we have both Roman and Gulnaz on the editorial and advisory board. So, also I must mention that this special section, the theme papers, their abstracts are translated into Russian, so that wider readership can access at least the key messages of these articles. So again, my thanks to all of you, the authors. At times, my emails were a bit harsh because when I had to meet all the deadlines, I had to chase them, and the authors by and large cooperated in revising, because it had all the papers had to go through multiple revisions in order for them to reach the standard that we all aspire to achieve for the journals. So, and again, Emma has been fantastic, and so was Dr. Samad in the cooperation. So, my heartfelt thanks to all of you, including organizing this webinar at Rose and Ashland. They have been working very hard in organizing this webinar, policy dialogue. Hans, of course, you have done a wonderful job in moderating. Thank you again to all of you. And of course, I have to thank my colleagues in ESCAP, my support staff, the co-editors from ESCAP. They have been excellent. Also, editorial board members, they have reviewed the articles, provided and checked the translations and all these things. The copy editor, designer team, even in the last minutes, we found something missing, and we requested them to correct, and they did it in time. So thanks to all the people involved in bringing out this fantastic issue.
Thank you, Dr. Anis, and all the best also for the future. And we let you go. We understand your tight schedule. I mean, we are basically already out of time, but maybe last chance. To my knowledge, there are also no questions in the Q&A and in the chat. However, last chance. Anyone wants to raise the hand, ask some questions, say something? Obviously not. So maybe thanks a lot for everyone, also for the discipline. It's my first meeting in life, which really ends on time. So I'm impressed also from this side. So thank you, everyone. Again, also, I want also to thank the interpreters, Sophia and Jana, and also my colleagues for organizing, Rose, Roshan, Emma, everyone. Thanks a lot, and the meeting is concluded. Thanks a lot, everyone.
Thank you. Look forward to
Thank you very much.
more cooperation in the future. Thank you.
Looking forward to more cooperation in future and discussion.
Thank you. See you.
Thank you.
And see you.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Goodbye.